Hey everybody, welcome back to Taji's World of Books, and I'm here to talk to you about what I have been reading over the last week. Hey you guys, welcome back. So first of all, let me give you a little disclaimer. We are having our flooring replaced, and so you're gonna hear a lot of banging downstairs because we're tearing out all the carpet and having it replaced. And so the workers are working, and so I can't get around that. And my whole family is home today, and so everybody is doing their own thing. And so you're gonna hear a lot of conversation in the back. So sorry about that, but it is what it is. I wanted to make sure I got this video up because I had been a little bit delayed. And so I didn't want any further delay. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Okay, so I have 10 books to cover with you, and so I'm going to try to go through this as succinctly as possible and in a way that makes the most sense. The first book that I want to talk to you about is a book that I heard about from Tiffany Rice, and she talked a lot about this in one of her series, and I was like, I'm so intrigued, I want to check it out, and I'm so happy that I did, but at the same time I'm just like, oh my god, what did I just read? And that is the story of O. It is very well recognized and known in French literature circles. It is one of the first books of its kind. It basically introduced the world to dark eroticism. This book was written, I believe, in the 50s. And there was a lot of controversy. Yeah, it was written in 54. There's a lot of controversy around because Pauline Réage is not, it's a pen name that this author wrote under, and we don't know if the author is a male or female. We assume that she's female because of the way that she writes. This was written originally in French. This is, of course, the translated version. They give you a little synopsis at the beginning to kind of break this down, because this is not a smutty book. This is not the traditional sort of BDSM books that we read currently, or I read. This really is a introduction into a master-slave situation, and it really is about how far would a woman be willing to go to demonstrate her love for her master. And so the story is the story of O. We only know the girl's name is O, and we come to the relationship at a time when they have already, her and Renee, her master, have already really established their love for one another, and what their relationship looks like to one another and how they interact with one another. Pretty much when we come into the scene, they are already in a master-slave relationship, and he is taking her to the chateau. And at the chateau, this is where she is exposed to some things, and some things happen to her. This is a really hard book to read, and I walked away feeling one part disturbed, one part intrigued, one part frustrated, one part sad, one part upset. Like, it just is, it's really hard to take, because the things that Renee and later Sir Stephen put O through, but that she also willingly goes into. And so who am I to say that she shouldn't engage in that behavior because it's harmful to her and it's degrading to women, when in fact she is willingly participating because she believes that it's something that she wants, and she believes that this is something that she is willingly participating. Am I the person to say, no, that's wrong for you to do and you shouldn't do that, and he's taking advantage of you and he's abusing you? This book brings up so many feelings and thoughts, and I think it's intended to. There is a final chapter that is banned, and it is, you can get it, and it is it's called like Revisiting the Chateau, or The Return to the Chateau, and it is what takes place after this. In some circles it is considered that chapter is too risque, and it's you can't get it in certain places. I did find it I found an old copy on Amazon, but I was so disturbed I just couldn't read anymore. I didn't want to read anymore because I know how it ends and I know what happens. It has 2 alternative endings, and I'm just like, I don't want to read that, because like I said, I was so bothered. I was so intrigued, because it is nothing like I've ever read before. There are things that happened to this woman that I was truly disturbed by, and I truly wanted to have her step aside, and I wanted to talk to her and say, please don't do this. but then she does it willingly, and she does it because she is in love. And, and it says, how far will a woman go to express her love? In the exquisite and taboo novel of passion and desire, the answers emerge through a daring exploration of the deepest bounds of sexual domination. O is a beautiful Parisian fashion photographer. So she's like a working woman, and she's a strong woman in her own right, because she knows her profession, she knows what she wants, but she wants to submit in the bedroom, and she submits willingly. And I don't have a problem with the willingness that she submits. It's the degradation and the things that they do to her body, and the things that the paces that they put her through that feel very manipulative and feel very controlling, and it feels like not a fun game, but rather an abusive game. I don't know, I can't explain it, but it's still a really good book. So I looked at the reviews on. It's a really good book because it's a literary sort of look at and a peek into this mindset, and it creates conversation. Just like art, right? Like you might look at a piece of art and go, what the heck is that? Like, I don't like that. And it evokes a very strong emotion in you. And that's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to evoke a conversation, and it's supposed to invoke strong emotion. This book does that. And with art, not every piece is for everybody. Some people go, this is beautiful, and this is like a masterpiece, and this is wonderful. And other people might look at that same thing and say, this is trash, and this is smut, and this is garbage, and I don't like it. And that's fine, and that's okay. And that's exactly what this book does as well. So I'm not going to tell you my rating of this book, because I don't think I don't think that that's appropriate. I think that it is, if it's something that is of interest to you, know that if you go into it, you're going to feel a very strong emotion, a visceral response to this, and you're going to be confused, and you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to just be like, wow. But at the same time, the way that it's written, it's beautiful, and it's breathtaking, and it's gorgeous, and it is a literary piece of art that can be discussed in circles where it's not like it's not smut, like it's not like pop culture kinds of literature, if that makes sense. So I recommend, if you are interested, that you check this out. It is the Histoire of O, or the Story of O, by Pauline Réage, and I think it's a worthwhile read for sure. Okay, the next book that I talked about, and I already did a live show, and please go check it out. We did it with Charles Books on Stereo, and it's by a breakout author named Nikita, and it's called This Lovehertz. And I really highly recommend that you check it out. I'll just give you a quick synopsis, that this is about Addison and Cole, and Addison is a girl who escapes a very secretive past of abuse, and she escapes that past, and she has enrolled herself in NYU, and she is a university student. She meets a friend. Her best friend's name is Mia, and while her and Mia are hanging out, they come across a guy named Nico, and Nico is smitten with Mia and decides to take the girls under his wing and take them out to the Hamptons, to his house and to his party. And he has these annual parties every year, this big Halloween bash, and at this Halloween bash, a massacre ensues, and Addison wakes up with Nico's body next to her, and she's covered in his blood. And the story sort of evolves from there. And this story is an absolute dark romance. It has a lot of trigger warnings. Please check out the trigger warnings. Do not read this unless you have read the trigger warnings in advance, because it is going to be cringeworthy in some aspects. I have seen that some people have problems with this book because the hero goes so far with the heroine for so long that some people feel it is not redeemable, and they don't believe the redemption arc. This book does end in an HEA, but again, you probably should read the trigger warnings before you check it out, because it is a lot. But it is really, really good. I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend that you check out my live show with Charles and see what we thought about this book. Okay, so then continuing on with I finally figured out the whole Karen Rose situation. I'm still reading in her romantic suspense series. I'm loving it. I think I just finished book 17, and I'm just slowly making my way through. And remember, I was saying that, or if you haven't seen, you could pick up any one of her books at any place and you really don't miss anything. But what I love about Karen Rose is that she writes a romantic thriller that gives you equal parts romance to equal parts thriller to equal parts suspense. She gives a very well-balanced sort of view of all of those things. There are no closed door moments. When couples get together, they get together, we're there with them. It's fantastic. And I have not been, only in one book was I able to figure out the actual whodunit situation. I can't figure it out because there's so many characters, and you really do have to be paying attention, and you have to be engaged in the story, because if you miss anything, you won't know what's going on, and then you're lost. And so she really weaves a complicated tale. Every character has relevance. It's either they are the main characters in the story, they're either secondary characters because they are part of the plot and they're part of the revenge situation or serial killer, or they're doing something that's involved in that, or she's building out characters for subsequent books. So every character has a place, and so you need to stick and stay on top of all your characters, because if they don't have a place in this book, in the following books, you will see those characters come back, and you will also see that the loose ends get tied up in subsequent books that were sort of, every book ends on an HEA and everything's all sort of wrapped up, but there's still little continuations of things that somebody might have gotten away, or there might have been a little miscommunication, or there is an extension of the criminal syndicate that happened with that particular book, and you will see it in future books. So having said that, I'm going to say that these books, these four that I'm going to talk about right now, these are part of the Baltimore syndicate, and that is You Belong to Me. It's all still part of the romantic suspense series, but this is particularly related to the Baltimore field office in Chicago with Baltimore PD and the FBI that are associated with that. So You Belong to Me, No One Left to Tell, Do You Miss Me, and Watch Your Back. And so I'm just going to talk about these briefly. All of her books, as I have said before, are all solid 4 stars. They are all very good. I have not in any of these books been able to figure out who was the whodunit. Most of her books are around serial killers. Most of her books are about revenge. Some of these books are starting to venture into the world of trafficking and sex slavery and child pornography rings. And so that's, opening up the band a little bit and making it a bit more interesting. This particular book, You Belong to Me, this is about J.D. Fitzpatrick. He is a homicide detective in Baltimore, and his love interest is medical examiner Dr. Lucy Trask. And so after JD was deployed in Afghanistan, he's coming back and he's trying to find out why these tortured bodies are turning up all over the city, right? And so it seems like there is a personal vendetta that this criminal or this killer has, that they're trying to enact in Baltimore, and it's up to him to find out, JD, what's going on. And so with the help of the medical examiner, who is, going through the bodies and kind of saying, okay, the killer is doing this, he's got medical knowledge, he's got this information, you're going to be looking for somebody that is, has this kind of background. She is helping him to, uncover secrets. She also has a dark secret of her past that is going to come out, and see how she is involved in all of this. And it is fantastic. Fast-paced, quick ride. Absolutely loved it. Don't want to say too much about it because you do want to go into these books pretty blind. We do know that Dr. Trask is on the killer's hit list, and we need to find out why he's on the hit list. And so it's fantastic. It's really, really good. The next book, No One Left to Tell. This is going to be about Paige Holden and State's Attorney Grayson Smith. And so Paige Holden ties into I believe it's the Chicago outfit, the previous books, because she was part of the PI firm in Chicago, and she's gotten away from Chicago, moved away from her friends, and is now in Baltimore to try to start fresh again. And so this starts off with Paige with a minivan crashing in front of Paige's house. And when the minivan crashes in front of her house, Paige runs out to kind of try to assist. And she has the woman who crashed her minivan in her arms, trying to comfort her while they're waiting for, assistance to get there. The woman passes a flash drive to her, and she whispers a cryptic message in Paige's ear. And that starts Paige on this infamous trail. And we start to see that this connects to the Chicago books, because as Grayson the Grace the State's attorney is starting to unfold the mystery of what's happening and what's on that flash drive when he connects past with Paige. We see that it's a continuation of the Chicago story, and we start to see that there are dirty, crooked cops and things that are going on and going down in this book that make it fascinating and really, really good. So this book is a 4-star. It's, again, fast-paced, a lot of characters, a lot of setup from previous books, and setup for future books as well. So the next book is Do You Miss Me? And this is Daphne Montgomery. She's a state's attorney. And this also is going to be a follow-up of, so there's Joseph Carter, and then there also is another significant love interest that's in this book. We're also seeing characters from previous books as well. And this other significant love interest has been chasing Daphne for quite some time. And it's going to be a matter of whether she allows herself to be captured, but also Daphne is she is the prey for the serial killer. So the serial killer that is being featured in this particular book has his eyes set on Daphne, and so we have to see if Daphne is going to be protected, and we ultimately have to see what Daphne chooses. This is one of the best books in this series. I gave this a 5. It was fantastic. It's also like a second chance romance, if you will, and it is really, really good. And there also is a lot of representation of breast cancer survivors and loss of a loved one. And there are a lot of different tropes that are covered in this book that are done really, really well, but it's really, really good. And this book is fantastic because this is an absolute second chance romance. This is Detective Stevie Manzetti. Detective Manzetti we've seen in all the previous books in the Baltimore sort of syndicate because her husband died previously from a robbery that went wrong. And here the mystery is uncovered about that robbery and what happened. Now we also have Clay Maynard, who owns a PI firm that some of the other characters work in. And he has been interested in Stevie for quite a long time, but because of everything that Stevie went through, she's a single mom now. She was pregnant at the time that her husband was murdered. She does not allow herself to give in and to love or to be loved. And it is a complicated path, but we start to see that Stevie Manzetti is the target of this revenge killer, and so we're trying to figure out who that revenge killer is, how it ties into her husband's murder, if it ties in, and who are all the players and characters that are involved in this. And this was fantastic. It was really, really good. I gave this a 5-star because there was so much angst in the relationship that they went through, and then also trying to uncover the mystery and figure out who the killer is, and how all these players are involved in this, and how this one beat cop and his father's drug use from like 35 years prior all is relevant to the story, and how these guys are all connected. And the way that she put this story together with military connections, and just, it was fascinating and really fun and really, really good. This is a 5 for sure. Okay, so then the next 2 books, now we are stepping into Cincinnati. And so the first book in the Cincinnati series, okay, is going to be Closer Than You Think. And this is psychologist Faith Corcoran and Deacon Novak. And I loved this. This was really good. Faith is a psychologist, and she's worked with sexual predators, and she's worked to redeem them and help them find redemption and healing, and whether or not these pedophiles can actually find redemption. And as a result of her work, she is being stalked by one of her previous patients, so she has to change her name and she has to escape the city. And she escapes the city to go to her family homestead. And when she gets to her family homestead, lo and behold, there are murders that are taking place in that city. And so Deacon Novak has a genetic condition where he has a white strip in his hair, and he's got multicolor eyes, and he looks like, like a superhero kind of a figure. He's an FBI agent, and he is very questioning of her because she has changed her name and she's not forthcoming with her details and information. But once they find out that she is in the sights of the serial killer, then they have to protect her, and they have to uncover the mystery and figure out what's going on whilst they work on their love relationship that is developing. And this is so good. It is like what a tangled web we weave, and there are family secrets and things that have happened from the past, and everybody everybody is a suspect until you're eliminated, and everybody has something to gain and something to lose. And it's fascinating and fast-paced and really, really well done. And so this is a 4.75 for sure. And then finally, this is Alone in the Dark. And this is about Scarlett Bishop, who we are introduced in this first book. And we are also introduced to Marcus O'Banion, who owns a paper called The Ledger. And so in this particular book, we are dealing with trafficking, and we're also dealing with sex trafficking and domestic workers that are being trafficked from different countries and being held against their will, and long generations of 20 to 30 years of drug syndicate. And we're trying to understand who the players are and how the paper is involved. And Scarlett is the detective that has been assigned to this case, and how does she keep her relationship, if she's going to develop a relationship with Marcus, separate, and what does that all look like? And it is, again, what a tangled web we weave with undercover agents and CIA operatives, and just so much going on, and so many different twists and turns with not knowing who's doing what under what circumstances and to whom. And again, everybody is a suspect until you're not, until we find out that you're an undercover agent working for a different organization. It's just so, Karen Rose just weaves a fascinating tale, and it's so good and so fast paced, and I absolutely loved it. And this book was long. This audiobook was like 22 hours or something. So this was like, it took me several days to get through this. This was a lot, but it was really, really good and very well worth it. So you guys, that is all that I have for today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you do check out the Karen Rose books, because like I said, they're fun, they're fascinating. I use them as palette cleansers in between some of the heavier, darker stuff that I read, because it just gives me something else to kind of focus on and something else to think about. But I really think that you will enjoy them. So as is always the case, you guys, if you have recommendations for me, put them in the comments below. I add them to my TBR, and I will get to them and I will talk about them. Or if there are things that you want to see me review or hear me talk about, put it in the comments below. And if you've read any of these books, give me your thoughts on them. I always love to interact with you guys. It's so fun. And thank you so much for supporting me and joining me. And do all the things. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so you can be notified every time I upload a new video, which is just, I don't know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I don't know, whenever I do. And so you'll be notified when I do. So that's all that I have for today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.